This week on BSD Now, I'm out of town for the week, but we have a special unboxing video to share with you that you really don't want to miss. That plus the latest BSD news is coming your way right now. BSD Now, episode 137, FreeNAS Mini XL, recorded April 13th, 2016. Hey, I'm your host, Chris Moore.
And I'm Alan Jude.
And we're glad to have you guys with us this week. Actually, we're recording a little bit earlier. It's actually right after the previous episode from last week, so the date is a lie. Don't believe anything I say. But I'm going to be out of town for a little bit this week. Just got actually in town, but a lot of people coming in. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we need a little time off to do that. So we're going to record this episode. We have a special video you're going to want to stick around for later, which, as we teased with the title, is related to the FreeNAS Mini XL. So we're going to show you some fun unboxing of that you'll want to stick around for. But before we get to that, of course, we're going to go through a little bit of news and have some of our usual show format. So you'll want to stick around for all of it. So let's hop right into the news here first. So our first story this week in the headline section is an example of a FreeBSD bug hunting session by a simple user, which I don't know if I would call Olivier a simple user, but...
No. So, just for a little bit of background, Olivier here is the original founder of the FreeNAS project, very, very many years ago, and is the current leader of the BSD router project, which is designed to replace, big iron routers like heavy Cisco's and stuff for, ISP level routing or whatever. So not just, any user, but, he's not actually a committer on any projects, and he's more focused on networking than actually being a developer. So it is fair to actually call him a user.
Okay.
But he walks through debugging a problem he had, and starting with, day one, he's updates his wireless router and things don't work anymore. And then day two, he's trying to reduce the complexity of his setup so he can actually write a bug report that a developer could actually reproduce. Because, saying, what you need to do is have the whole setup I have at my house. Well, that doesn't really help. And so, he talks about trimming this setup down to eliminate complications, but also to make it easy for somebody else to build the same setup to try to reproduce this problem. And he walks through his first unsuccessful attempt to do that, and then a later one that was better, and so on, and then figures out what his problem is. So
points out too that you got to do it on current as well, because developers are working on current, so they're more likely to be able to reproduce the bug there.
Yeah. Plus, if you can't reproduce it on current, it probably means that your problem's already fixed and all you have to do is upgrade. So basically, in his setup, he had the RE0 NIC, which he called LAN 0, and that was a wired NIC. And then he had one IP address on bridge 0, which was a bridge between RE1, a second wired interface, and WLAN 0, which is his wireless interface. And the RE1 interface was in the up state, the administratively up state. And then the WLAN 0 was configured in host AP mode and had forwarding enabled. But he found the problem was if the RE1 interface didn't have a cable plugged in, his bridge stopped working. And he was very confused by it. It's like the wireless should still work even if this cable's not plugged in. And so he started digging into it. And after reading a bunch of man pages, he started with the ifconfig man page, which is huge, and it didn't really help. But at the bottom, the little also see sent him to net intro, which was an intro to networking. I was like, well, I've been doing networking a long time, not really what I'm after. But after skimming through the net intro page, its also see section sent him to ifnet, and that walked him through, and he found that there's this structure that contains whether the interface is up or down or in an unknown state. He had reached his limit of what he could do, but after talking with the developer, he found out about the other ways to look into it, and eventually built a dtrace probe to show when the interfaces change state, what state they went from and to. And then by plugging in and unplugging the cable on that RE1 interface, he found out that the problem was his RE0 wired interface was up, RE1 was down, the WLAN 0 was in an unknown state, and this caused bridge 0 to be down, because the bridge only shows up as up if at least one interface is up. But because the WLAN interface is set as unknown instead of up, it was saying, okay, if I have a down interface and an unknown interface, I'm down.
That's still down, yeah.
And eventually was able to figure that out. But it's definitely an interesting read, and it walks through using the kernel debugger on the live system, using dtrace, which is much safer, and all the different things he learned, and kind of poking at some source code and getting help writing more advanced dtrace scripts, and all of it to eventually solve his problem and figure out what the problem was.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if I'd call him a simple user, but still,
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
it's doable. He doesn't have a commit bit, and he was able to debug this and do a deep trace probe. So I would imagine some of you guys can use that as inspiration.
In particular, dtrace is specifically designed for what it calls like system operators, or just non-programmers to use to actually figure stuff out instead of having to learn how to use the debugger and read through the source code. Dtrace specifically is safe to turn on a running system, and it's not going to crash the system, and it's designed not to have too much overhead as long as you don't try to probe every TCP packet or something, although you can do that. But it's really designed for just end users to be able to get the information they need to figure out what's going on inside their system without having to have a developer's understanding of it.
Okay, next up we have a video series, or a couple videos that have been posted here over on the Reba Linux blogspot site. And this is actually a nice way to do videos. So over at Reba Linux, they have a great video showing how to set up and install OpenBSD 5.9 with XFCE and, of course, some basic desktop applications, your Firefoxes and your Thunderbirds, the typical stuff. But a thing I really liked with it, along with the video tutorial, because I'm not a huge fan of watching YouTube videos, another nicety is they show you all the commands they used underneath. So you can actually copy and paste or just follow along that way, see exactly how the setup was done without having to watch the video and pause and rewind in order to keep up as you're typing in different commands and whatnot. But all in all, a good one. And then they followed it up after the OpenBSD. They did a PCBSD 10.3 installation video as well. Looks like it just landed a few days ago. So check those out. A couple good getting started videos there if you're curious to try either one of those platforms.
No.
Okay, so next up we have FreeBSD Xhive. So what's this? Is that like an IOHive thing?
Yeah, this is Xhive is a port of Bhyve to OS X. It's actually Bhyve for Apple. So this is just 3 tutorials on doing that. Originally, when Xhive first came out, it only did Linux, and you couldn't actually boot FreeBSD in it because they hadn't ported like the FreeBSD user boot stuff. But they have that now. So this tutorial walks you through creating a FreeBSD image. So this, create a 5 gig FreeBSD image, install FreeBSD into it using Xhive, and mount a host directory into the VM. So they use Homebrew to install Xhive. Then they use mkfile to make a 5 gig file, download the FreeBSD ISO, boot it up, and run through the installer, and then a second script to boot it up again and run booting from the image, and then mounting the home directory. And then they have a second tutorial that goes through actually resizing a VM. So if you, if 5 gigs wasn't enough, but you didn't know at the time, it actually allows you to increase the size to make it even bigger. And then how to deal with that. And then a third tutorial that actually covers starting with a QEMU pre-built image and converting it to the raw type so you can actually run other images made for other VM systems and convert them and be able to run them in Xhive.
That is pretty nice. Yeah. Pretty nice. Well, cool. It's neat to see all the various hives starting to show up. There's a lot of new stuff that's kind of spawned off this whole Bhyve project, which is pretty slick. Okay, so our next story here, we have a Unixman has dropped another tutorial on us this week, and this time it's about how to set up IPFW and then use SSHGuard to protect your system. So, of course, we'll have the link in the show notes, so you'll want to check it out for all the gory details, but kind of to give you an overview of it, in the tutorial, they first lay down the rationale for picking IPFW as the firewall, since obviously PF would have been a good choice too. But the reasons mainly boil down to IPFW being developed primarily on FreeBSD, and as such, it isn't lagging behind when it comes to features or support. So kind of use the natively developed thing is the route they went with. Interestingly enough, after that, they then go the route of adding their own user local etc rc.firewall script, which they will reference in rc.conf, which allows you to specify different TCP and UDP ports you want open through IPFW in your rc.conf file directly. So that is definitely handy. You'll want to make sure you grab those bits. But once the setup's complete, which you can pretty much just copy and paste, they then move on to kind of the crux of the article, which is going to be the SSHGuard setup. So specifically, though, when you're getting started, you need to make sure you install the correct port or package. SSHGuard comes in a variety of different flavors, and specifically for this one, you're going to want SSHGuard-IPFW, so it understands IPFW rules and how to block things.
Yeah, there's
of course,
multiple different versions depending on which firewall you want.
That's right. I think there's a null one too. So if you just want to set it up and then script your own thing, like you can do that too. So definitely check out those and make sure you grab the right one for the right firewall you're using. SSHGuard-PF obviously would be the other probable choice of what you'd want. The article also mentions that the name SSHGuard can be a bit misleading since it can be used to detect other types of brute force intrusion detection, not just SSH.
Yeah, they have
if you're
little list here: OpenSSH, SendMail, XIM, Dovecot, KookiePop, UW IMAPD, VSFTPD, ProFTPD, PureFTPD, and the FreeBSD FTPD, and lots of other stuff.
That's right.
I know that's why I switched to it originally, because whatever I was using before, I don't remember what it was, didn't protect the POP3 server that was part of Dovecot, and they were getting a lot of brute force attempts against that, and it was causing problems.
Okay. So from there, they're going to throw a bunch of the configuration at you, which is going to allow you to start making the most out of SSHGuard's potential. You'll end up with a lot of stuff in your rc.conf file, so be prepared for that, although copy and paste will probably work best here. But this is definitely well worth your read if you want to see how to do some of this brute force detection and blocking. And even if you're not using IPFW, if you're a PF guy, that's fine. I would still read this, check it out. Just substitute for the appropriate PF commands as opposed to IPFW when it gets to those sections. But at least the SSHGuard should be similar either way. So definitely check it out. We'll look forward to seeing if they drop some more tutorials on us down the road. That's good to see.
Yeah.
So
they also cover how to unban somebody if you accidentally ban yourself or your friend or something. When you're testing, sometimes you ban stuff and you want to unban it. And they also have a bunch of stuff about how to deal with it if it won't start properly. Lots of that's what I like about a tutorial that has the debugging steps. It's like, sure, tell me how to do everything, but also tell me how to fix the most common problems I'm going to run
when
into.
something goes wrong, how am I not lost? Like, help me out. So that is pretty cool that they do that. Okay. So next up, we got actually our sponsor for the week. We're going to be starting with DigitalOcean right now, and that's DigitalOcean.com, of course. No /BSD Now at the end of that. Don't worry about that part. Just DigitalOcean.com. Go get signed up, create your account. Right now, it should take you less than 60 seconds. And of course, when you do, use the coupon code FreeBSD Now, which that's going to be the way they know that you heard about it here. And of course, when you do that, you get your $10 credit, which is good for about 2 months of running the lower end VM, which is still backed by an SSD, and still gives you a terabyte of transfer a month, which is pretty darn generous for a $5 a month VM, if you ask me. And of course, in a variety of locations too, which we've talked about before. So you got your New York and London, and you say Toronto, Singapore. Was there San Francisco on there as well?
And Germany.
So, in Germany. And we mentioned last week, I guess they're talking about opening one up in India as well. So, I mean, it just gets better and better. No reason not to get set up today, and go check that out at DigitalOcean.com, and definitely set it up. Throw FreeBSD up there in the cloud if you want to. You could do OpenBSD as well, Dragonfly Net, etc. Or if you really have to, they offer Linux. So definitely check them out. And if you talk to anyone, tell them you heard about it here on BSD.
Big thing is they have great tutorials. Very well written and very well edited as well. So they have one here, package management systems, a brief overview, and they actually walk through, Debian, Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora, and FreeBSD, and actually tell you the differences between the different package commands. Looking through this, if you're familiar with one of the package tools, but not with the other one, say you're just trying out FreeBSD for the first time, then this guide can kind of help you translate from, that apt or yum command you're used to what the FreeBSD equivalent is. And they actually covered ports and the package tool with that. So it's definitely worth a read if you're getting started with FreeBSD and used to something else, and you want to just kind of have this little tool as a translation guide. Like the little phrase book you have when you go to Japan. It's like,
yes.
How do I say bathroom in Japanese?
I do this. What's the equivalent?
Yes.
Right?
What's the equivalent to apt-get install, or how do I search for a package because I don't remember what the exact name is, and how do I delete all the dependencies that were installed by this thing that I don't need anymore, and so on.
Sure. Okay. Well, cool. Go check them out today, and of course, let them know that we sent you. Okay, folks. Well, we're here today. This is our first unboxing I think we've done on BSD Now, which is pretty darn exciting. And I haven't cheated. I haven't pre-unboxed it and looked and put it back together. This is the real deal. It just arrived in the mail this afternoon. I have already cut the tape, so you guys don't see me injure myself with a pair of scissors, which is probably bad. So anyway, let's get right to it. This is, of course, the new FreeNAS Mini XL, if you couldn't tell that by looking at the picture already. And before I get started, I'd like to point out the box is pretty darn nice. It's got little handles, about 25, 26 pounds, somewhere in there, be my guess. But it showed up, and I can't wait to open this bad boy up. So I'm going to start unboxing it, and then we'll talk about it here in just a moment. Okay. Okay. Now I know you can't necessarily see the top here. I'm going to try and lean it down. It's a little big, but you can see some quality packaging up here. It looks like, I'm guessing, some accessories. So let's pull that out. Ooh. Now this is unexpected. I didn't realize they were sending me one with all the disk drives, but it looks like they did. So take a look at this bad boy. Yes, be very jealous. And I apologize. I'm using the good mic today, so I'm leaning down to talk to you guys so it doesn't get too quiet, but we got a lot of hard drives here. It looks like all 8. Okay, fantastic. Drives are all out. Let's see what's up next. Okay. Now this is a little tricky here, but let's see if I can do this without making a fool out of myself. Not too heavy, but I almost would recommend, if you're going to do this, get a second person to help you lift it out of the box. It would have looked really bad if I dropped it there, but let's actually see what this unit looks like. Okay, look at what we got here. Let's get rid of that. And lo and behold, here it is in all of its mighty glory, the new FreeNAS Mini XL, which I'll go through some of the specs of this unit for you here in just a moment. But first, let's just kind of admire it a little bit here. So, let's see. So, with the drive bays open, of course, you can see here we have room for 8, whereas the old Mini had room for 4. So that's a nice improvement. Looking forward to messing with that. We have a couple USB ports right on the front here for convenience. Of course, power, reset, etc. So pretty standard stuff. Let's take a look at the back here. So in the back here, looks like power. And then, of course, a couple Ethernet ports. Ooh, it looks like 3. I'm imagining one of these is for, IPMI management. We have another USB port, serial, and then, of course, VGA. So, yeah, not too much else to show you without actually ripping it apart, but it looks like it should work as advertised. Okay, so next up, it came with a stack of drives here. I detect a bunch of spinning disks. Let's see exactly what what came in this. Of course, yours may vary depending on how you order it. Okay. Looks like a bunch of 1 terabyte Western Digital Reds. Very nice, very nice. And of course, a very nice caddy to throw them in. And inserting them should be just as simple as this. Okay. Oh, so I put it in the right slot. There we go. Okay. Oh, there you go. First drive is inserted. So obviously I'm not going to put all these in right now, but you can imagine what it would look like. It's the same as for all of them. But really quick, let's actually go through some of the specs of this. So of course, IX Systems just sent this over to me today, and was really looking forward to trying it. I'm going to be firing this up here probably tonight or tomorrow morning because it's getting late here. But this looks like a pretty nice little unit. So first of all, just to make you drooling, because you got to have all the gory stats. So of course, it has a remote power on and off, UPS signal responses and alerts. Awesome. We have hot swappable drives. That's all these guys, of course. Bad block scans. We have smart testing, ISO mounting support, and hardware accelerated disk encryption. Of course, that's the jelly stuff. And AES-NI. 8-bay enclosure, super quiet design. I'm just kind of going through the spec sheet. You can see this on ixsystems.com on their website. They'll have it under the FreeNAS Mini section. And of course, it's an 8-core, 8-core, 2.4 gigahertz Intel CPU, of course, with AES-NI. So that's your encryption acceleration. 32 gigs of DDR3 with ECC, and they have an optional upgrade to 64 gigs as well. So if you're planning on running some services and jails and whatnot, man, that sucker is really going to scream. So, of course, RAID, it's your typical RAID Z1, RAID Z2. You can do ZFS mirrors, ZFS stripe, so pretty standard FreeNAS stuff there. And what about networking? So we have 2 gigabit Ethernet ports, and then a dual port upgrade to a 10 gigabit Ethernet is optional, and of course a dedicated IPMI port. So that's what that sucker was on the back there. And then we got 8 SATA 3.5 hot swappable drive bays, and then there's 2 internal SATA 2.5 internal drive bays. So I imagine that's where you're going to throw like your ZIL or your ARC, which of course that's what it mentions here next is you have your read cache, your L2 ARC, which is optional, which of course is going to boost your performance by giving you that SSD-backed read cache. And then the ZIL is going to allow you to boost performance on certain types of writes where you have a high-performance write cache. Power supply, of course, this will run pretty much anywhere, 100 to 240 volts AC, 50-60 hertz single phase. So yes, you can use it in Japan. You're good to go there. Power consumption, wow, a whopping 37 to 47 watts, depending on how you have it configured, which, yeah, there's no reason you couldn't just let one of these guys run. That's less than an old school 60-watt light bulb. So pretty stinking cool. Of course, it has the FreeNAS web interface and remote hardware management and all that built right in. And we have the dimensions here. So it's roughly 8.5 wide by about 11 inches deep. So we'll call it, a little less than a foot. And of course, 15.1 inches high. So a little taller than the old unit. So if you're going to tuck it under your desk, maybe measure, make sure you'll have room under there. So I probably won't be putting my feet on this one, a little too tall, but pretty cool. So weight, without the drives, it was actually 23 pounds without any of the drives in it. And of course, these will add a little bit of weight. And of course, IX is going to back it with a 1-year warranty. And pretty much it comes with everything you see here. But let me take a look at the accessories box real quick before I get too carried away, just to see what else came with it. So, of course, Ethernet cable, power cables, some extra screws, and then the FreeNAS Mini Getting Started guide, your quick start guide here. And of course, they have a nice picture of the Mini XL and then the old school Mini as well, with detailed instructions on how to get it set up. Looks like, just some front panel information here, what the back panel ports all are, and then, of course, how to get set up with the FreeNAS software once you get it booted up, which should be preloaded on there for you. So darn, this is just a great weekend project. Look, let your wife, let your significant other, your spouse know right now that you want one of these badly. This is a great birthday present, great Christmas present, or, if it's any day of the year, just a great Merry Xmas in general. So I highly recommend it. I love these little units. These are fantastic. Of course, if you've been a FreeNAS fan for a while, you're very familiar with what it supports, but everything from NFS to Samba to CIFS, FTP, iSCSI, they have a whole list of services here, and, that's been no surprise. If you've been a listener to BSD Now for any time now, you know about all that. But definitely check it out. And we were really excited to be able to bring you this unboxing video. And once we get it plugged in, I'll be talking about it more on upcoming episodes of BSD Now for sure, just letting you know how it's working and kind of giving you some feedback as we go with it. So thanks for watching, of course. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon.
Well, that FreeNAS Mini XL certainly does sound exciting, Chris, but you forgot to tell people where to go to get it. Head on over to ixsystems.com/BSDNow and check out their ultimate guide to buying a new server for open source. Doesn't matter what operating system you're running, you need good hardware and the best people to provide it. And, if you are actually interested in the FreeNAS Mini, they also have a site for that. If you go over to ixsystems.com and go under storage, there's the FreeNAS Mini, and it talks about the Mini and XL, and you can see all the specs and customize it how you want. Have some great pictures of some of the innards as well. But at the bottom here, there's a little configurator. You kind of pick out how you want to configure your XL or regular FreeNAS Mini, and pick, how much RAM you want, what size hard drives you want. If you want the 10 gig NIC option, whatever it is you're actually after. They also have a storage capacity estimator. So after you pick out what size hard drives you want, say 3 terabytes, then at the bottom here, you can see that gives you 24 terabytes of disk space. But when you do RAID Z1, that'll be 21 terabytes. But if you do RAID Z2, it'll only be 18, but it'll be twice as redundant. And you can flip through the different options and be like, well, I want RAID 10 for the speed, but 12 terabytes isn't enough. So let me go back up here and change to bigger hard drives. And now, 42 terabytes. Oh, that's not RAID 10. RAID 10. There we go. There's the 24 terabytes I need, and I'm good to go. But it doesn't matter what kind of server you need, whether it's something small like the FreeNAS Mini or something huge like some of the machines I bought with multipath SAS and 36 hard drives. They can sort it out for you. You just tell them what you want to do with the server, and they can help you make the decision about what parts you actually want to use. That's the big difference. They don't just have a couple of models on the shelf that they're trying to sell you. They custom build each machine to try to do what it is you need to do to solve your problem. And because of that, you get much better machines. Instead of just, we have a small, a medium, and a large machine. You're trying to do something large, so here, buy the largest machine. That doesn't necessarily help you, because oftentimes, if it's a storage server, you probably don't need all that much processor. But, at some point, depending on the amount of RAM you have to get a bigger processor that supports that amount of RAM. But they will know all the ins and outs, and they're definitely a resource you want to have on your side when you're trying to decide how to build a server, because it's a big decision, and nothing worse than ending up with the wrong server after spending all your money. So that's why these guys are who I go to when I need servers, because I know that I'm going to get an accurate quote and that it's going to be the machine that I want, and it's going to do the best job for what I'm trying to do. So head on over to ixsystems.com/BSDNow and get in touch with them, and make sure you tell them that we sent you.
Okay, it's time to roll into the Beasty Bits. Hope you guys enjoyed the unboxing, first of all. That was a lot of fun, and I know I'm looking forward to getting that set up and actually in use here. Got to feed it some drives, so got to figure out what I'm going to throw in it. But anyway, I will bring you more on that down the road as it gets set up and let you know how it goes. So let's hop into the Beasty Bits here. So first up, we have an interesting picture here of Amazon. If you're deploying, it looks like something over in
yes, if you use
the AMI.
Yeah, well, if you're using the AWS Marketplace to get your EC2 images, so this is the official images of FreeBSD that you use on Amazon's cloud.
Oh, sad face. It's marked as other Linux, and it has a penguin in front of it.
Yeah, so they have special categories for Amazon Linux, CentOS, Debian, Fedora, Gentoo, OpenSUSE, Red Hat, SUSE Linux, Ubuntu, and Windows. And they couldn't make one. But now that OpenBSD is available as well, maybe they can just make a BSD category?
Yes, please. Just a BSD
or something.
At the very best.
Yes.
And come up with some generic logo.
Well,
come on.
Yeah. You just don't really. So if you know anyone at Amazon, complain at them.
Yes, they need to fix that. Okay, well, next up we have a post here on the Dragonfly mailing list about making hammer commands print root volume path. Interesting here. So based on the change made by previous commit, this commit adds the root volume path information, not root volume pound, to hammer info and hammer volume list commands. And hammer volume list shows the path only on -v. So this enables users to explicitly now know the root volume.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
You can see where that
good.
comes
I see they have sampled the output there.
And then you can see there's a second commit that does similar things for the volume add and delete commands.
Yeah, that is nice. I'm taking a look at those. That's cool. Okay. Oh, so speaking of books, we have the front cover reveal for the upcoming FreeBSD Mastery Advanced ZFS book.
Yes.
We have a post here.
This is a wraparound cover. So the cover is one continuous picture that goes all the way across to the back, but we're not letting you see what's on the back yet.
You got to buy it to find out, right? Or wait until...
Or if you know what the artwork that inspired this is, maybe you will get an idea. But here's a picture of Beasty with a book that, if you look closely, is full of binary.
All right.
And he's offering this up to someone.
Interesting. Yes. Interesting. Well, we will have to keep an eye on that. And of course, when it relaunches, we'll have to announce that. Show the picture.
I think Luke's is hoping to have it ready print copies ready in time for Penguicon, which is at the end of this month. So, but it's still off being copy edited, and I expect to get the suggested edits back and have to go through and approve them all. And I'm sure there are many edits.
Okay, next up, World Backup Day. So if you're thinking about World Backup Day, the best way to back up your FreeBSD boot screen is make it a pillow. So back it up now. We have a link here, and it has the dimensions and a nice picture on a nice looking, what is that, a 4U? No.
That's 4Us.
It's a 4U?
It's a 4U machine full of hard drives, which I'm guessing is running FreeBSD.
Nice. And
on top of it is a FreeBSD pillow, which you can now get in 3 different sizes. They have the big 50 by 70 centimeter one, which is the size I have. It's a regular, a pillow you would have on your bed type. They have a 40 by 40, which is a little more like a throw pillow for your couch kind of thing, or the tiny 17 by 40 centimeter one, whatever size you want. And they're stitched by hand on canvas attached to a homemade zippered pillowcase. They're really nice and very cool. And I
need one. They don't have pricing information on here.
They're made to order.
To know how much
they weren't. They were well priced. It wasn't expensive.
Okay. Just want to know the ballpark.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere on the site, just not in this specific post about Backup Day.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'll have to check that out. Oh, yeah, they did a 10% discount. It looks like around New Year's. So, okay, very, very cool. Yes. Go check that out.
I didn't think to grab mine off mine sits in our living room at our house. It's proudly displayed.
I need to get one. That just sounds like a good birthday gift. I'll tell my wife, I want one of those. Okay, well, let's move on to a couple of the questions and comments. But before we do that, let's mention the last sponsor this week, which is going to be Tarsnap. And, of course, the website for that, tarsnap.com/BSD Now. I mean, if you're here in the States, what is it? It's getting close to April 15th. Tax time's coming up, which means you have more documents you have to sit on for the next, what's the recommended, 7 to 10 years?
Something like that, yeah.
I've had different people tell me different things, but I think 7 is like the accepted. But anyway, where are you going to keep those? You're just going to throw them, leave them on your hard drive, on your desktop? I mean, sure, that's safe, I'm sure. And what happens if you lose your hard drive? And then, of course, you get audited. So you don't want any of that. You need to back it up somewhere safely where you...
Oops. Sorry, Chris got out there. Yes, you want to back it up somewhere safely where it's going to be encrypted and you're not going to lose access to it. You want to have access to your tax records always, but you want to make sure no one else has access to them, right? Yes. But yeah, don't just take our word for it either, though. Check out the testimonials page. They have the co-founder of Stripe, which is a big credit card processing company that actually we use here at Scale Engine as well. Part of the reason we're happy to let them have all of our credit card information for all of our customers is because we know their backups are done with Tarsnap. Also, Robert Morris, who you might be familiar with if you're old enough to remember the Morris worm from the 80s or whatever. He's a professor at MIT, and he also explains why it's the most cleanly designed and convenient of all the Unix backup utilities that he's tried. And lots of other people, even the guys at Pebble that make the smartwatch, say they use Tarsnap to back up much of Pebble's internal infrastructure. They love the simple command line tools and the rock-solid security and reliability.
Okay, a couple feedback and questions to get to you this week. So first up, we have Daniel who writes in. He says, hi, Alan and Chris. I want to use PostgreSQL for a few sites, and it requires a sysv IPC to be enabled. I've learned that I must enable security.jail.sysv IPC allowed on the host machine, and then set allow sysv IPC true for each jail I want to enable the sysv IPC in. I've seen it mentioned on the internet that this defeats the security of using a jail and is discouraged. So he said, my question is, when I enable the sysv IPC for Postgres in a jail, am I compromising the security of my FreeNAS or FreeBSD host and the jail, or just the Postgres jail, or am I compromising the security of all the jails, even without allowing the use of sysv IPC on other jails? Is it safer just to a database of VM, or do the database in a VM if the need for sysv IPC is required? Thanks for the awesome show, and keep up the good work.
It just means that there's a patch that sort of solves part of this problem, but it's not been upstreamed. But it just means that the sysv memory, the shared memory, is shared across all the jails. They're not properly separated. So it means that someone in one of the other jails could read the information out of your Postgres sysv IPC in the different jail, where they're not supposed to be able to, but that's the limitation currently. And so that's it doesn't affect the security of it any other way. It's just that the security of the system, of the shared memory, is compromised. If I'm not mistaken, I think newer versions of Postgres, like the very newest versions of Postgres, doesn't actually use sysv IPC anymore.
Oh, okay.
And so that's less of an issue. But I'm not certain on that. I don't use Postgres very much, although I should.
Right.
But yeah, so it's not going to cause huge security problems. It's just that you will need to be careful with what else runs in shared memory on all the other jails.
Cool. Okay, well, next up is Shane. He says, this is kind of a follow-up to OpenTunes, by the way, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. He says, good day again, guys. Great show. For those who have only heard of the OpenTunes release, it has been quickly picked up by the open source community, and today, roughly 2 weeks after open sourcing, there's already 110 people that have forked it on GitHub, and you'd expect many of them to be contributing changes to getting it running on multiple platforms. It is a Qt application, so there isn't a lot of change needed. Well, that's good to hear. Mostly the CMake build files are set up to assume either OS X or Win32 is the target platform, and yes, the tests use Win32, so it is easy to add some adjustments when the system is recognized as Unix. Most of the work's already been done by building on top of changes to make it build on Linux. I've got the code to also compile on FreeBSD, but still had some linking issues to fix before I can get it running. Not sure if Linux has resolved all the linking issues yet either. While work has been done to have it use SDL for sound, there is some libUSB and Twain code that is most likely either for scan and trace feature or tablet input. This will need some work, so the first install may not be 100% feature complete. For any non-developers that are interested in helping, it looks like all the documentation is in Japanese, so there's some translating to be done and proofread. And there appears to be French and Italian for the program UI, while German and Spanish have been submitted for inclusion. There's also Japanese comments throughout the code that might be nice to have translated. So definitely some Japanese native speakers or people who can read Japanese might be helpful in this case. But thanks for the follow-up on that, Shane. I know that we actually had several emails in about OpenTunes, but we just picked this one to read, kind of to aggregate them all. So thanks for sending that in. Hopefully that lands as port soon. I know I told my son about it. He was all excited, like, oh, that looks really neat. I'd run that. So I hope other people find it useful. All right, anything you wanted to add on that, Alan, before I close it up?
Nope, I think that's it.
Nope. Okay, good deal. So as we wrap up the show here, of course, we'll be back same time next week with the usual episode. We'll both be here. But go ahead and send your questions, comments, or if you have any show ideas or topics, send those over to feedback@bsdnow.tv and send them there and only there because we don't monitor anywhere else. So try and send everything there. If it's a story you found or a link somewhere, I don't care how trivial it is, just send it in. We'll take a look at it. If it's worth putting on the show, we'll toss it in the show. And we'd rather have too many emails about something than too little. So definitely send those in. Of course, we'll be happy to read your questions and comments as well on a future episode. So thanks, and we'll look forward to talking to you same time next week.